Hi, it's time for another exciting installment of AT Math. Today we are featuring 3-4 solving two-step and multi-step inequalities. Why it's more fun and safer than having to stand off against a moose.
Hey! Ah! Ja! Ja!
Tänk om vi går på oss istället.
Ja! Ja!
Okay, let's get started. Today again we have 3-4 solving two-step and multi-step inequalities as mentioned before. First thing I want to do is I want to remind you of what you already know, which was the following. 2x plus 8 equals 14. If you remember, the first step instead of plus 8 is a minus 8. Well, minus 8 on one side, you got minus 8 on the other. Those cancel, leaving just 2x. And 14 minus 8 equals 6. Then instead of times 2, you divide by 2. Divide 2 on one side, divide 2 on the other. Notice how you have x equals 3. Now, all we're going to do here is just change the sign. So I'll keep this same exact formula, but change it from equals to a greater than. Same thing though. Instead of plus 8, minus 8, minus 8 to both sides. Instead of times 2, divide by 2. Notice how the only difference, instead of equals, is now a greater than. So it's just a different symbol. That's the only thing. So you try. Go ahead and give these three a try here. 4x minus 5 is less than 11. 1/3 x plus 3 is greater or equal to 6. And 3/5 x plus 3 is less or equal to 9. Go ahead at this time. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look. And you will see instead of minus 5 we add 5 to both sides. Makes 4x less than 16. Instead of times 4, divide by 4 on one side. We divide it on the other. X is less than 4. This one, instead of plus 3 and minus 3 on one side, minus 3 on the other. Then 1/3, remember, means 1 divided by 3. So the opposite of divide by 3 is times 3. Times 3 on one side, times 3 on the other. Leaving 1x. And 1x is just x, so we're fine. And the other side was 3 times 3, which makes 9. So x is greater or equal to 9. Number 3, instead of plus 3, minus 3 to one side, minus 3 to the other. Then instead of divide by 5, times 5 to one side, times 5 to the other. Leaves 3x, which is 3 times x. So instead of times 3, we're going to divide by 3. Divide by 3 on one side, divide by 3 on the other. And we get x is less or equal to 10. Now the only exception to this is when you have a negative variable like this. So now I'm going to put negative 2x plus 8 is greater than 14. Well, we're still going to minus 8 to both sides first. So instead of plus 8, minus 8, minus 8, minus 8. So now I get negative 2x is greater than 6. Well, the next step, instead of times negative 2, is divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2 on one side, divide by negative 2 on the other. Now 6 divided by negative 2 does make negative 3. However, because you're switching from a positive to a negative, or a negative to a positive, you have to switch the sign as well. Here's why. When you take 6 divided by negative 2, it goes from a positive to a negative. So the sign has to switch to follow it. So now x is less than negative 3, as explained there. Go ahead and you try. Negative 5x plus 8 is greater than negative 42. Go ahead and try to solve it. Alright, let me go ahead and do it here for you. Instead of plus 8, minus 8. Minus 8 to both sides. Remember, you have negative 5x now. Sign stays for the moment. Negative 42 minus 8, don't forget, is negative 50. Then, instead of times negative 5, excuse me, divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5 over here. And you get a positive 10, and now because you switched from a negative to a positive, sign switches as well. So now it's x is less than 10. Try another you try. Alright, hopefully you've had time. If not, pause it. But if you have tried, minus 3, minus 3. And now you have negative 3x is greater than 93. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Got the x here. We're going to have 31 here, negative 31. And the sign switches from greater than to less than. And that looks about right. Next. Oh, wait, and time for a commercial.
We got an order to do?
I want a quarter pounder minus pickle and a Big Mac. You better get that right, no coke. Just give me Sprite and don't forget the Big Mac sauce on the side with the extra fries. I'm so hungry it's like I haven't eaten in days. Oh yeah, don't forget the mayonnaise. I like it on the side. Got Hamsy on the side. Got Monster in the back. We going for a ride. Don't get my order wrong. I don't want to come back in this drive-thru. Gonna get a fillet of fish with that. I'm a chicken on the side too. You want an apple pie? Hold on, just make it two. Okay, let's go.
And hopefully we're back from our commercial. So now we have graphing. Graphing we have, you can follow on page 188 if it helps you. Instead of plus 160, we're minus 160. Over here and minus 160 over here. So it leaves 4f. And 500 minus 160 is 340. Now, instead of times 4, we divide by 4 over here as well as over here. So now that leaves f, and 340 divided by 4 is 85. Notice how less than never changed because it was never a negative. And if f is less or equal to 85, 85 is the action, and because it equals, the dark circle means include me, and less than. You try. 7 minus 2t is less or equal to 21. Go ahead. And let's see what we got here. First, what I was saying was, remember that this minus 2t, the negative is part of the 2, not the 7. So instead of plus 7, we minus 7. Minus 7 over here, minus 7 over here. Makes 14 and negative 2. Negative 2t is less or equal to 14. Instead of times negative 2, divide by negative 2 on the left and right. And your answer is going to be negative 7. Because we divided by negative, sign switches. So instead of less or equal to, it's now greater or equal to. So, action negative 7. Equals means dark circle. Greater than means going this way. Now, if the next step is if we have to simplify first. So notice how I have negative 4 and negative 8 on the same side. All you have to do is combine the two to make negative 4 plus negative 8 to make negative 12. Now we redo the whole problem from here. And now, instead of minus 2 plus 2, if we add 2 on one side, we add 2 on the other. So I go ahead and make negative 10 is less than negative 5c. Now instead of times negative 5, we're going to divide by negative 5. Divide negative 5 on one side, divide negative 5 on the other. Notice how these cancel, leaving the c. These cancel to make positive 2, but because we divide by negative, sign switches. But I want to put c in the front. You can do this if you switch the c over here and the 2 over here. And the sign has to switch again, because the sign's attached to the 2. So when it switches, so does this. And now we graph. Well, if c is less than 2, that's easy. Action at 2, open circle, because it's not equals, less than, boom. You try. Go ahead. Alright, so hopefully you combine negative 8 and negative 16 to make negative 24. Now instead of plus 6, we're going to minus 6. Minus 6 to one side, minus 6 to the other, makes negative 30, is less than negative 5c. Don't forget, instead of times negative 5c, instead of times negative 5, divide negative 5 to the right, and then left. Makes positive 6, but because we divided by negative, sign switches from less than to greater than. Although, c switches again. C and 6 switch, so the sign has to switch. So c is less than 6. So action at 6, open circle, less than. Now, let's step it up. Negative 3 times 3 minus x is less than 4 squared. All you have to do is take negative 3 times 3, and negative 3 times negative x. Remember, negative 3 times positive 3 makes negative 9. But negative 3 times negative x is going to make positive 3x. And 4 squared is going to make 16. Now instead of minus 9, plus 9, and plus 9 here. So these cancel, and this is going to make 25. Now instead of times 3, divide by 3, divide 3 on one side, divide 3 on the other. Really, I would be happy with this, 25 over 3. However, for those who have a higher standard, 8 1/3 is certainly acceptable. And now less than sign, so open circle, and less than at the 8 1/3 mark. You try, go ahead. Alright, let's see what you did. Negative 21 times 3 is negative 63. Negative 21 times negative x is positive 21, is less than 625 when you take 25 square. Now instead of minus 63 plus 63 plus 63 to one side plus 63 to the other, so we're going to go ahead and get 688. Instead of times 21, divide by 21 on one side, divide by 21 on the other, and we're going to get x is less than 32.76. So action 32.76, open circle less than. Alright, moving on. Whoops, let's go back. Now, if I have 4/5 x plus 1/2 is greater or equal to 3/5, there's two ways to do this. I'm going to show you the better way, and it's a way you're going to have to learn anyway, because when all these become letters and not numbers, you're going to have to do this. So what you do is, where does 5 and 2 meet at? In other words, 5, like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. They meet a bunch of different places, but the first place they meet is 10. So I can times them all by 10. Remember, when I times by 10, I'm going to times by the top and divide by the bottom. So 10 times 4 is 40, divided by 5 is 8. 10 times 1 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. And 10 times 3 is 30, divided by 5 is 6. Looking here. Now when I do this, the signs don't move. There's still going to be a plus here and a greater than sign here. But notice it got a lot easier here, because now instead of plus 5, I'm going to minus 5 here, minus 5 there. Instead of times 8, divide by 8 here, divide by 8 there. Still going to be a greater than sign. This whole time it's been greater than, because I never times by a negative. So, action at 1/8, x is greater than. Open circle, boom. Now you don't have to do it this way. For those of you with a scientific calculator or better, instead of plus 1/2, minus 1/2, minus 1/2 to one side, you minus 1/2 to the other. And you can punch in 3 ABC5 minus 1 ABC2, and it will give you 1/10. And then instead of, you can have a couple choices. Instead of times by 4/5, you can times by 5/4. Or instead of times by 4/5, you can divide by 4/5. You can get it done that way. Either way, x is going to be greater than 5/40, or x is going to be greater than 1/8. So there's different ways to do it. The first way you have to learn eventually, so I would suggest it. But if you want to use your calculator for now, you can. You try. Go ahead. Let's see. I times them all. You can times them by 20. For this purpose, I times them by 40, though, just to show you that either one's fine. Times by 40 here. 40 times 4 divided by 10 is 16. 40 times 1 divided by 4 is 10. And 40 times 3 divided by 10 is 12. Then instead of plus 10, minus 10, minus 10 here, minus 10 there. 16x is greater than 2. Instead of times 16, divide by 16, divide by one side, divide by the other. And 1/8. X is greater than 1/8. Open circle, bam. Now it's time once again for that word problem. Hey, Screaming Sheep, what you think about that word problem? Still not a fan. Oh well, someday the sheep will be okay with it. If you need to, you can follow along on page 190, example 3. To win a blue ribbon, which means first place, for the heaviest pumpkin crop at the county fair, the average weight of John's 2 pumpkins must be greater than 819 pounds. One of his pumpkins weighs 887 pounds. What is the least number of pounds the second pumpkin could weigh in order for John to win the blue ribbon? Here's what they're saying. 2 pumpkins. The first pumpkin they know weighs 887. They need an average of 819 for both in order for him to win. So take a look. Here's a couple of pumpkins I pulled off the internet. They were giant size. And we'll say this bigger one's 887 pounds. The question is, how big does this guy have to get? Well, let's put it in an equation. 887 plus the other pumpkin, on average, needs to be 819 pounds. So look what I did. 887 plus something. When you add those up and divide by 2, they have to equal 819. Well, instead of divide by 2, we're going to times by 2. Times 2 on one side, you times 2 on the other, which is going to make 1,638, I believe. Yep. And now I know this is 887, so instead of plus 887, we're going to minus 887, and minus 887 over here leaves 751. So his other pumpkin only has to be 751 for him to win the contest. And we are done, and I will leave you with a little treat. Thanks for watching.
you.